20 on Saturday, showers and 18 on Sunday, a possible shower and 19 on Monday, then clearing up for a cloudy day on Tuesday and a top of 24. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Peter Godfrey on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
6 minutes past 5, 11 degrees in round figures at the moment. Let's take a look at what's happening across the ditch in New Zealand. Selwyn, editor of EveningReport.nz, who's been dreadfully ill with the man flu for the last couple of weeks. Selwyn, you've risen from a near-death experience.
I'm Lazarus.
You're Lazarus.
Yeah. It was a shocker. Haven't had it for years. And oh, man.
Oh, we know how bad the man flu is. Yes.
Every guy out there listening to this, Peter, will be able to empathise.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
But,
and all the women will be going. All the women will be going, oh, get over it.
Yeah, get over it, you pathetic specimen. But, yes, I'll wheeze my way through. I'm sure I'll be okay this morning, Peter. But there we go. But, yes, no, definitely things over here in New Zealand. The sun has risen despite the United States experiences.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, and we're looking in Auckland. The temperatures are... getting there, warming up, should we say. 21 degrees expected as the high in Auckland. A little bit of wind coming through, southwest wind type thing, and overnight around about 15 degrees. So it's like we're catching up a little bit. Usually at this time of the year we'd have it a little bit warmer than that. But how about you guys?
A question for is your sort of weather, has it been consistent, or have you been sort of chopping and changing from one day to the next?
Chopping and changing right through the spring post-equinox period for sure. A little bit of coldness coming through. It was unseasonably cold about a week ago.
Yeah.
With people really actually wrapping up. There was high winds through yesterday and the day before up in the north of the North Island and coming across there. But looks like it's settling down. Can't do much else but get a little bit warmer at this time of year, can it?
Yeah.
I think... last year, we had cold weather right up until mid-December, really. And when I say cold, I mean around trying to struggle above the 20 degrees. And that was very, very weird, but I think that was attached to the El Nino phenomenon that was starting to position itself at that stage.
Yeah, well, we're seeing things starting to warm, but still the inconsistency, which, just to illustrate that, 26 degrees today, 35 degrees tomorrow.
Gee.
Sunday, 18 degrees.
Whoa.
Wednesday, 31 degrees. So
that's like,
Make of that what you will.
It sounds, when you're reading that out, you get a mental picture, Peter, of a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly. The weather roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely, and it must be terrible.
Yes.
Being on the positive end of the man flu, Peter, you'll all have to wrap up very well on Sunday if it's going to be 18 degrees.
Yeah, although I think Jane Riley's loving it because it's just, so interesting. She's, something different every day to keep on top of all the weather stuff. So she's probably enjoying it. If we're not. All right, so we're going to talk on a couple of things here. One stunning loss and one unexpected win. I guess the unexpected win will be Mr. Trump yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. So just looking at the reactions over here in New Zealand, checking out the New Zealand Herald, nzherald.co.nz, we've got Trump all the way through this, really, and the various things of what it means for Kiwis. So just looking at that, the main headline there is Trump Triumph Live, Clinton Tells of Pain, Key casts TPP to history. So the expectation there with the TPP clearly is that Trump campaigns so hard about isolationist economic policy in the United States that the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement looks like it's not going to probably go through. The United States isn't a partner to that. Well, then New Zealand and all of the other countries that are signatories to that, including Australia, of course, will have an agreement that basically has no teeth, Peter, and the purpose of it was obviously to access the United States on a more equitable basis, but it's looking like that's not going to happen. So the Herald has got quite a piece on that. Further down the Herald, we've got President Trump, TPP now a lame duck, so you can see they even going, the sub-lead is also touching or going deeper onto that. One of the interesting things that is coming through, Peter, is a headline here on the New Zealand Herald that says Kiwis stand to lose millions in the foreign exchange.
Right.
Now, I guess that's due to the uncertainties and things. Remember that the Kiwi dollar has been picking up in its strength right through the last 12 months. If you look at it over the last week, when the uncertainties were certainly around, compared to the US dollar, the Kiwi entered into it around $1.72. Then it strengthened 72 cents to the 72 US cents to the New Zealand dollar. It came through it as a high over the last week of 74. So that 2 cents is a huge fluctuation really in 1 week. That said, it peaked this time yesterday. It had peaked at 74. This morning it is down to around the 72 again. So overnight it's collapsed by basically 2 cents there. So that gives an idea of just how volatile it is. I know that the money markets were watching the Australian currency very, very closely yesterday, and I know that the UK was making a big deal of it on Bloomberg and watching the Australian currency. So New Zealand and Australia are obviously quite often tagged and attached to the hip, or the Kiwis attached to the yen, to the Aussie dollar. So this time is obviously going to be one of very big uncertainty until we get an idea, and everybody, the world gets an idea, the United States gets an idea of what a Trump victory means in economic sense, Peter. So those are the big things on the New Zealand Herald. Also another one saying, relating to the stock markets, brace yourself for market turmoil. Now, we saw that certainly yesterday, and we saw, the pictures of the stock exchanges right across Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, going red into the red, all across the whole map of Asia Pacific region went red. So that was obviously as soon as the early votes started coming through, or indications of the early votes started coming through, that something was happening in the United States that no one really that was doing the math picked up. So there's a lot of common ground, no doubt, in your own papers with what we're seeing here on that. If we look through to the stuff.co.nz, that's Fairfax's newspaper over here, and that's looking very much into American right turn, it says, Peter, and the sub-headline there is Trump's triumph changes everything. I guess we know that, don't we? It does change everything, and the reason why he's been voted in clearly is because so many people over there that weren't picked up in the polling or anywhere else, or keeping quiet for whatever reasons to themselves, want huge change. Then there's sub-headline here coming down, the sub-stories, should I say, sub-leads. Hillary Clinton, it's focusing on that. It was published about 3 minutes ago, and it's saying, I'm sorry. Hillary Clinton was, and it says, Hillary Clinton has spoken of the past, of defeat, and her hope for the future. So it goes on and on. We've got a lot more there, US faces of a scary future. That's an opinion piece. So Fairfax is really trying to look at what was expressed there. We'll go across to Radio New Zealand, live, the election aftermath. That's digging in deep to all of those issues that we were raising, that were, in the first one there, New Zealand Herald, namely the markets rally in volatile post-election trading. Remember, New Zealand's one of the first stock markets that opens in our region, Peter, the Asia-Pacific region and Oceania. So there will be a lot of attention on what is happening to the stock market over here. The New Zealand stock market's been doing reasonably well over the last 12 months. It really dipped down yesterday, and one would no doubt a lot of those Asian markets be watching that, then watching as Australia comes online as well, to see what is happening with those US-leaning kind of economies that yours and ours has. Radio New Zealand's also looking at Clinton there. I'm sorry, we did not win this election, and also what will President Trump do first? So if you're in, I'll just look at the blogs as well, Peter, very quickly.
Yeah.
So the most right-leaning blog here, probably that attaches to what, it's very hard to define, but as it's defined, the alt-right that is in behind the Trump cause there. So this particular blog is called Whale Oil, and it's run by the notorious Cam Slater over here in New Zealand. His leading story there, Trump triumphs, and he says the media party refused to call it, but eventually the weight of the votes meant they had no other choice but to call the election for Trump. The Clinton destiny is destroyed. It will never return, he says, and he's going on to his reasons there. We look across at the most left-leaning blog, the Daily blog over here in New Zealand, and it's saying hate Trump's love. this is Truxit. It's meaning that the United States' isolationist policies under Trump is expected, and that will retrench into its own borders. We look across at the Standard, which is kind of like a Labour Party kind of position and Progressive Green Party type of positioned blog site, and it is going in there. It's just opened it up to its visitors and its members to make their comments, and the first one on there is basically saying, boy, did the DNC or the Democratic National Committee ever get it wrong. Bernie would have made a much more credible candidate. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? The Bernie Sanders, there's a little bit of talk in the United States last night about that, is what would Bernie Sanders have done, meaning that some of the disenfranchised voters may have been split and gone his way. Kiwi blog, that's the most conservative one over here. It's not so much, you wouldn't place it in the same camp as whale oil, which is very, very extreme. Kiwi blog is much more conservative in its thing, and it's as it does, it's kind of taken out there, and it's kind of taking a softer stance, but it's kind of saying here Trump's campaign did nothing that professional campaigns are meant to do. No get out the vote machine, no voter segmentation and targeting, a relatively small ad buy. And, that would be an interesting thing to see what Kiwi Blog does there, because the owner of Kiwi Blog is a guy here that owns a polling company called Courier Polling, which is right at the heart of the National Party here. So they'll be looking very carefully there, Courier Polling and market research, to see whether or not they can learn from some of the mistakes that were made in the United States, so that when they go into the election year in New Zealand next year, Peter, that they don't make the same mistakes.
Okay.
So that's pretty much a wrap-up of the New Zealand reaction.
The reaction to it, yeah. Just quickly before we just take a break, just going back to the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, I mean, that's obviously a pretty significant one for New Zealand. Is much sort of coming out as to sort of specifics on how that's likely to impact New Zealand?
There'd be a lot of relief over here, to be frank. Just about all polls show, even those that are polling the most conservative and National Party-leaning people, shows at best a 50-50 split on this. Yeah. If you go outside into the general public, you start getting up into 60% that do not want the TPP.
Okay.
And a lot of that is mainly down to some of the legalisation of it and the lack of protections for sovereign decisions, meaning that if something goes through the Parliament doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be able to, because the international courts and the legal framework that was around the TPP would ensure that the corporations are able to take those countries to court if it was deemed to be outside of the agreement. So, all those kind of things have really caused a lot of Kiwis to become quite fearful of it. The other thing was, too, is that often a clause in the TPP that wasn't spoken of a lot was one where the United States believed it could enforce the differentials in the labour force costs. So if the United States' wages are up generally compared to Australia, New Zealand, and certainly Southeast Asian economies, the United States felt that in some way it could actually enforce to either lift or give a compensation for the lower labour force costs or worker wages in those other countries, and how that was going to actually map out was very, very difficult. But so a lot of people probably over this side of the ditch anyway, Peter, thinking, well damn good.
Okay.
The fear was with Clinton, when while she said she'd gone off the TPP, that she would enforce stronger to get the TPP through. She would take the opportunity to force stronger things and bias toward the United States' interests, which is pretty much what she was saying in the debate. Yeah. So there was, a lot of focus obviously starting to shape on what a Clinton win meant. I know that the TPP negotiators from each of the economies are meeting up in Switzerland in early December to map out exactly what it means. So it'll be an interesting time, and certainly here the Labour Party leader, Andrew Little, who was in favour of the TPP, he said it looks like it's dead in the ditch. And you've also got National Party, the government over here in New Zealand, saying the same thing, Peter.
Okay. Well, there's a lot happening. So we'll just have to have a quick break, but we'll come back and we'll go from that unexpected win to a stunning loss, but it's nothing to do with Hillary Clinton.
On the sport field.
Yeah, indeed. Be right back with you. Selwyn Manning's with us at the moment. He's the editor of EveningReport.nz.
5AA Breakfast.
How are you, Rowie?
Social media is a bigger scourge on our society than I think illicit drugs. It does just as much damage to a teenager's brain. It alters their
I actually think that's
thoughts.
right, Rowie. It's certainly just as addictive.
It doesn't do just as much damage to anyone's brain as illicit drugs.
No, listen
Will,
to
wait till you got kids. It is more pernicious and inescapable than having a meth habit.
5AA Breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6 on 1395. Adelaide's 5AA.
Have you made plans for family lunch or dinner? You should try the Maid of Auckland. Family owned with traditional pub values and great service. The Maid of Auckland is perfect for the whole family, with kids' activities that they can enjoy at your table. And great menu selections at an affordable price. Plus on Mondays, kids eat free. The perfect place for your next family lunch or dinner. The Maid of Auckland, South Road, Edwardstown.
Like any great footy team, you need to build on a solid foundation. 25 years ago, the Adelaide Fresh Group did just that. They grew year on year by putting you first, offering a totally unique and rewarding buying experience. Today, they lead the way with their selection of cold meats, cheeses, gourmet continental goods, fresh flowers and more. So call into Adelaide Fresh Morfett Vale, Tony and Mark's at Newton, Glenunga and the Brickworks, plus Chanella's at Prospect, all part of Adelaide Fresh and always in season.
Peter Godfrey, talking Adelaide on 1395. 5AA.
22 past 5, and we're talking New Zealand, taking a look at what's happening across the ditch. Selwyn Manning with us, editor of EveningReport.nz. Selwyn, the all-conquering All Blacks, they've had a fall last weekend. Beaten by Ireland to break that fairly extensive winning streak they've had. What went wrong?
Yeah, the winning streak. It went on for 18 first-class international tests. So that was a world record. They were going for the 19, trying to stretch it out. And I've got to say there's a lot of complacency around the camp, but also amongst the New Zealand pundits as well, Peter, and a bit like in the United States with the Trump victory coming through. Ireland, we always respected Ireland, even though on the history stakes it looked like it was almost 100 years since they'd beaten New Zealand on the rugby field there with the All Blacks. But they'd come so close a number of times. They drew only a short time ago, and also they were robbed of wins a number of times right here in New Zealand when they were playing the All Blacks. So a lot of people are saying they're not surprised. It's a fantastic team. It really stretched New Zealand in the World Cup last year. So they've been clapped and applauded, got to say. Except when the All Blacks were playing Ireland, I heard, when the All Blacks would score a try, you'd hear around the communities here, around the streets, the residential streets, there's a huge cheer going up around Auckland. And then dead silence for a long time after that, Peter. But All Blacks were absolutely blitzed in the first half of the Test match with Ireland last week. They were behind by about 17 points going into the half-time. The huge ditch there. Ireland scored. New Zealand looked, worse. New Zealand came back very quickly to make it a competitive game in the second half. And at one point there, we're within striking distance of winning the game with one try, but they didn't quite get it. They ran out of puff, which was uncharacteristic for New Zealand, All Blacks, in that latter part of the second half. They're usually extremely strong. Ireland came through. Peter, the final score, 40 points to 29. World champions collapsed. So there's been a lot of soul-searching over here. Really, a lot of people were blaming the halfback in the first half. He was the one that was disgraced with a little bit of a, how should we put it, a little bit of a misdemeanour in a public toilet.
Oh, the one in
all places. So he was put through the ringer as the blame for it for a while, Peter. But really, it looked like what was happening there is New Zealand were very short in their talent in the forward area, the locks in particular. The two specialist locks here that are obviously world-class players, they were both ill, and the third specialist lock had a bereavement and had to go home. All Blacks were shown to be very thin beyond that, and having to put Mr. Kano into that position, who wasn't able to fire, really. So all of these things, the All Blacks came through and saying basically that, it's a good lesson. Where they go from here, Peter, they're going off to play, they're playing Italy on the weekend. Just bring up the right day here because it's a bit of a time difference there. Yeah, so it's on 2 a.m. in the morning on Sunday,
Right.
which is around your midnight, 11 o'clock your
Round about
time.
there,
So I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
late
people will be getting up to watch England and play, Italy play New Zealand, but there you go. And the expectation is, of course, that the All Blacks will come back online for that one. It would be a pretty tough one for Italy to win. But then they go into Ireland to play Ireland again, and that's the following week, Peter, on the Sunday.
So
the following week after that, they play France, which is going to be, obviously, those two later games will be fantastic. While all of this is going on, the New Zealand Rugby announced that it has kicked off a respect and responsibility review. And that is because rugby this year has been exposed as having a very seedy, sinister underbelly in a way, with exploitation to women and the way it treats others, and whether or not that's infected at all levels of the game. They're having a look into that, and they've got a person on that review, amongst others, but the fabulous Lisa Carrington, who is the multiple gold-winning kayaker at Olympic level, and she is taking part there. So that will be an interesting thing that we'll follow, Peter, and I'm sure you guys with your sport have equal kind of things.
Yeah, we do, indeed. Yeah.
So we'll see how that runs. But All Blacks have been knocked off their pedal. The England team now considers itself, no doubt, the world champion because they seem to see themselves as better than Ireland, and they come down here, the British Lions tour New Zealand in 2017. So that will be, a tough tournament for the All Blacks to hold on there.
Indeed. All right, so just actually one other quick thing. I did see when I was just looking on the Stuff website, and I'm sure, you wouldn't be the lucky punter that picked up the $44 million in your Powerball last night, was it?
No. My wife moaned and saying, I forgot to get it. Didn't you buy a ticket?
Uh-oh.
As the balls are coming out of the thing on the television last night, in between, the realisation of a Trump win and things like that, and the lotto thing, $44 million. Imagine that. That wouldn't be too bad, would it?
And just a single winner. So you better not look at the numbers in case they were the numbers that you would have played. You wouldn't want to find that out, would you?
The only silver lining on it, and maybe it's not a silver lining at all, but with the currency going down overnight, that $44 million won't be as worth as much compared to the US.
So wait till it goes back the other way before you get the lucky ones.
Yes, you get that double cat bounce or whatever, dead cat bounce, what they talk about.
There we go. Well done to whoever that lucky punter is with that $44 million.
Let's hope we don't have a nuclear war or something like that, Peter, and we make it through these 4 years, and maybe it'll be all right. Indeed.
All right, so we're glad to have you back. I'm glad you're over your man flu. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll catch you again next week.
Take care, Peter.
All the best. Bye-bye. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz.
At 800,000, I bid away now. Nudge me north in 50.
850.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And welcome to the bidding at 850 is the call. Looking for 9 in time, if I may.
Whether you're looking to buy, rent or sell, who do you think of? Toop and Toop, of course, Adelaide's most awarded real estate firm. And they join me, Alan Hickey, each Wednesday evening at 8:30. And if you want some handy advice off air, the Toop team is available in the Real Estate Lounge from 8 p.m. to take your call. Real Estate Radio, Wednesday evenings from 8:30 on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
Hello. Frank Walker from National Tiles. This week only at National Tiles, we've got beautiful polished porcelain floor tiles at under $20 per square metre. Yes, that's right. This week only at National Tiles, beautiful polished porcelain floor tiles from under $20 per square metre. Rush into a National Tile store near you now, or go